So welcome back to part 2. So in part 1 it will be labelled we did build the base, this is how we got the cardboard, and we've got up to this part here. So we're just forming our little clay together. And now what we need to do is just peel this just off our cardboard. We just need to flour this surface, because once we start rolling that out, we don't want it sort of like sticking, especially if the shape's gone slightly off. So just some all-purpose flour. Just going to flour the top of my cardboard and just rub all that in. I've just lifted you up slightly. So all this is now been floured. So you can get your strips back, line this up, and now we need to take an acrylic rolling pin. I've just moved the cake out the way so you can see what I'm doing. So roughly going to put this in the middle, and then taking an acrylic rolling pin. It has to be acrylic because what will happen is if you use wood, it will stick. If you've only got a wood rolling pin, make sure that you do flour all your surface before you start rolling. So I'm going to pop my rolling pin onto my clay. I'm going to squish this down and I'm going to start rolling it together. So everything will sort of like sit flat. You need to keep going backwards and forwards over this part so it spreads out onto your cardboard. Like I say, we do push this out as well to get the middle in. So if you are, slightly short, don't worry about it. So I'm just going to work all the way along with my rolling pin, spreading all these 3 colours together. So I'm just going to work all the way along and then I'll be back. So I've roughly sort of gone over it. I've just trimmed off where my guide is, which has left me this little piece here. Then you can sort of like take your rolling pin and spread it either side. So the aim is just to cover the cardboard. Do not worry because we do put texture on this as well. So if you've got any sort of like little lumps or anything like that in it, you can take your finger, spread it all out. Work all the way along your cardboard. And then just take the palm of your hands and then just squeeze this all the way down. Just so it tucks all the edges in. Make sure everything is covered. So next we're going to add some texture to this, and then we're going to use a tool and we're going to push all these colours together and then add in our little white stripe. So just before we add the texture, I've just lifted this off. Obviously it will just peel straight off because we floured the surface. And we just need to sort of glue this now to here. So this is just a clear PVA glue. You can obviously use your tacky glue, PVA glue. So I'm just going to pop it on here, spread all my glue out, and then I'm going to lift this back onto my cardboard. So this is now adhering to the glue that we've just done. Don't worry about all these little edges. Like I say, everything gets pushed out. So, if the majority is covered, that's great. So next, to add the texture, just get yourself some kitchen foil, roll that in a rough ball. You can also use a toothbrush. It has to be quite a hard toothbrush because obviously the clay swells up. If you put slight indents in, when it dries and it puffs up slightly, your indents aren't going to show as much. You can also use a cocktail stick, a hard paintbrush, whatever you find easiest. So I'm just going to take this and I'm now going to push quite hard all over our stripes, and then this will just sort of like give us the sponge texture. I'll just show you up close. So I'm going to work all the way along, just tapping this in, and then we're going to add the filling. Once you are happy with your texture, I have got this, I think it comes like a little Cricut tool. You just need sort of like a flat edge now. So an alternative, you can use an end of a skewer. You can also use a large mixing stick as well. So I'm going to grab those and I'm just going to show you how you can use all 3. So if you are using this method, what you will need to do is just sort of line up your clay, put some pressure on your join to make the indent, and then work all the way along. You will then need to get a mixing stick. Again, you can use this method as well. But what the mixing stick does is it will push out a little well. So we're now going to form a well. Let me just show you. Just going to push it out either side, and it will just make that indent into the cake where the cream is going to sit. Or like I said, you can use this as well. So I'm just going to work all the way along, just forming the line first. So if your colour has gone out like this, just take whatever tool you are using and then push it upright. So you're pushing it away from itself rather than into the pink. So you're just going to work all the way along, just forming a line, forming the well as you go, and just separating your three colours. If you've not covered this part here, this is where you can push your clay out. That'll just give you some more excess. Then you can use your finger and just sort of spread that out. Then you can trim the excess pieces off with some scissors, and then just go back over, sorry, with your textured foil. So I'm just going to work all the way along these lines, forming a little well, pushing it as I go. We should now be up to this stage. So you can now add a different coloured cream if you want to. If you want chocolate in yours, or you want a chocolate stripe and a white stripe, or cream, it's completely up to you. So I'm just going to use white for this. So I'm just going to grab some white foam clay. As always, I'm going to condition this. If you are wondering what foam clay I do use, it is in part 1. And now all we need to do is create some thin sausages. So I'm just going to do this quickly, otherwise we're going to have about 10 parts of it. We're going to roll it up in a thin sausage. Go all the way along. Just take this as your guide. And then what you're going to do with your sausages is place these into the well. You will not need glue for this, because obviously it will stick, because your clay will still be wet. So I've just placed my white stripes, as you can see, using the little well that we created for a guide. I'm just now going to pick this up, squeeze it between my fingers all the way down, making sure all the cardboard is covered. If you have any excess, you can obviously use your scissors. Now what we need to do is flip this from the join to form the shape. And then this is the flap that we did earlier and kept this part here. So now we're going to bend this around and use our glue gun and attach this part together. We're then going to spread this part together with our fingers just to get rid of the join. For this part here, I'm just going to use my finger and thumb. I obviously have used my glue gun to attach the corners together. You're now just going to lightly just spread all your bits and pieces together, just to sort of blend in that line. If you've gone, if your icing is not in the quite position that you want it, just get your tool that you used earlier to make the well and just push that down and spread it out. Once you have roughly sort of spread it together, again, just go all the way around the edge, just pinching it, lifting up the clay, because like I say, it does swell slightly, just to make sure that all your top is covered. And then you can take your foil ball and then just go over your join with your texture. So you should have sort of like a teardrop shape. And now we are ready to add the lid. Bending it into the rough shape that you want, we are now going to take a piece of cardboard, pop this onto the top, and we're going to draw on the inside. You will then need to cut out your template. Just measure it along the top, just to make sure everything sits. It should sit just on this lip here, and then we're going to cover this top and decorate in part 3. I will see you there.